presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
Welcome to Duck Insider. Duck Insider.
Man, it feels great to be a Duck.
Give it to me, baby. My house. I'm taking it there.
Their competitors, they'll want to put the O on.
Three, got it!
We're going to compete to a standard every day.
The Oregon standard.
Rebound. Up and in. 1 point more to go.
The opportunity to play, put Oregon on your chest, should mean a great deal to you.
Unloads on one into left field, back toward the wall. Gone!
This program is staged to compete and to win championships.
Oregon wins!
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, let's talk Oregon athletics.
Basketball game day. Matthew Knight Arena, I hope that it's going to be full because USC is in town and Oregon is squarely on the bubble in the NCAA tournament conversation. I'm Joey Mack. Thanks for being with us. 7:30 pregame show tonight. I know 8 o'clock tip-offs are a little bit late. I get it. But just remember, the Ducks need you because I know it's on ESPN2. It's a national audience. But that's why Matthew Knight Arena's got to be full, because it's a national TV audience, and the Ducks could really use that sixth man off the bench. That would be the Oregon pit crew and the entire crowd, because an 8 o'clock tip-off tonight is a big one against USC. Why is it a big one against USC? Well, in order for the Ducks to work their way into the real meat of the bubble conversation, they in many ways need wins against the LA schools on this upcoming homestand, because UCLA is 10-2. Arizona is 10-3. USC is 9-3 in third place. Utah 9-5. Oregon 8-5. The Ducks own the tiebreaker with Utah because they're 2-0 against the Utes this year. So the way I look at this, Oregon's really in fourth place. They're a half game behind Utah right now. Utah's got their weekend that allows Oregon to catch up to the Utes in terms of number of games played, because Colorado is the opponent this weekend for Utah. So what does this mean? Oregon is now ahead of Arizona State in the standings. They don't play them again this year. And after the Ducks host the LA schools, their schedule is against the teams that are in the bottom half of the Pac-12 standings. Washington, Washington State, Stanford, Oregon State, and Cal. Those are the teams that are coming up for the Ducks after this stretch. I said going into the year that from the Arizona home game to the UCLA home game, that was the critical stretch of the season for the Ducks. I will keep saying that that is the critical stretch of the season for the Ducks. USC is part of that stretch tonight. Now, it's an oddity. We talked with Brian Fish about this, executive director for men's basketball. This is weird. Oregon has not played USC yet. It's February 9th, and this is the one time that Oregon plays USC all year. So if you drop a game to the Trojans and you end up tied with them at the end of the season, well, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be in a head-to-head conversation for Pac-12 standings, and honestly, with the way things are right now, you don't want to be in the conversation with USC in terms of the net rankings. That could be a little bit rough. Now, here's one thing with USC, and I kind of think that this is going to come into play tonight. The Trojans have a 13-4 record in games decided by 5 points or fewer since the start of last season. 13-4 in games decided by 5 points or fewer since the start of the last season. Now, the Ducks not been very good in games decided by 6 points or less this year. However, they're coming off a victory over Arizona State on the road where they did just that. They won a game that was a two-possession contest. I feel like that's a huge confidence builder for the Ducks going into this one home game against USC. Also of note, UCLA is a 2 seed in Joe Lunardi's bracketology. Jerry Palm has the Bruins as a 4 seed. I don't get that. Arizona's a 1 seed in Lunardi's bracketology. Palm's got the Wildcats as a 2 seed. And then USC. USC is a 10 seed in Joe Lunardi's bracketology heading into tonight. and Jerry Palm has them as an 8 seed. Now, Utah, who's, like we said, currently above the Ducks in the Pac-12 standings by a half a game, Utah's not in the conversation. Oregon, for all intents and purposes, knocked Arizona State out of the bubble conversation with that win because Arizona State now has a net ranking of 70. Well, USC's is 50, Utah's is 54, Oregon's is 53, and that's why Joe Lunardi has the Ducks in the first 4 out. If the tournament started today, the Ducks would be in the first 4 out, according to Joe Lunardi. He has a good name, by the way, Joey Brackets. I will never have a name as cool as Joey Brackets. But as a fellow Joey, we can identify with that. Oregon, though, being in the first 4 out, the Ducks have some opportunities to get some resume-building wins, quad 1 wins, quad 2 wins down the stretch. But here's the deal. These LA teams, because of the schedule ahead, again, games against Washington and Washington State on the road next week. They've got Oregon State on the road the following week. Then Cal and Stanford. So just start thinking about the resume-building wins that the Ducks could have. You're starting to run out of those resume-building wins, aren't you? Because listen to the net rankings for those teams. Washington, 121. Washington State, 80. That's a tricky game on a Sunday in Pullman, though, I'm going to be honest with you. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Stanford is 116. Ducks would like to avenge that loss to Stanford from earlier this year, similar to the Arizona State game. Oregon State is 217, and Cal is 296. So just by playing those teams, the net ranking may go down a little bit for the Ducks. That's why these games are so important. Now, there's a reason that I tell you this on Duck Insider, and you won't hear me ask Coach Altman about this on the pregame show because I can tell you exactly what Coach Altman would say to me if I asked him about net rankings. He would say, well, all that matters right now is the game right in front of us, and that's USC. So that's why I'm giving you the net ranking breakdown of what things will matter for here moving forward. So USC, though, 50 in the net ranking, Oregon 53. And again, these are two teams. USC's in the field if the tournament started today, but a couple losses they may not be. So it's not just that this is the one game that could determine where the two teams sit in the Pac-12 standings. It's very likely that these are two teams that, amongst others, that are on the bubble across the country, these two teams may have that blind resume test when we're all sitting there on Selection Sunday going, who's going to get in? You might have Oregon and USC's resumes right next to each other. So the head-to-head could really come into play. I feel like the Pac-12 is good enough to be a 4-bid league. But I think in order for that to happen, Oregon probably needs to beat USC. Oregon needs to finish strong. And to be honest with you, USC needs to finish strong. Then I think it's those 4 teams in UCLA, Arizona, Oregon, USC that get in. But this game is massive. It's massive. So let's meet the Trojans. How do you go about beating this team? Well, they've got some pros on their roster. And, it's no secret that the last few years, actually, USC's had the advantage. The series history, USC has won 7 of the last 10 meetings overall, including one in the Sweet 16 that I still have nightmares about because I was sitting here in the studio calling that game. That sucked. And also the game itself just ended up not being all that fun. I will never forget Terry Johns, and I think Scott might have been here also. I can't remember. Were you here? Yeah, I think you were here. Yeah, so we were sitting here. We can't show it on camera, but there was a TV that sat right in front here, and all of us were just depressed at the end. I mean, it was not fun, especially not being around the team that whole year. So I bring that up because USC has given Oregon a lot of bad memories. Credit to Andy Enfield. He has done well against the Ducks, and it's in the past been the big men of USC, the Mobley brothers in particular, that have given the Ducks problems. Now, those guys aren't on the roster anymore. But still, USC has won 7 of the last 10 meetings. Oregon, though, has won 9 of the last 11 against USC in Eugene. So the home court advantage is important, so it's nice for the Ducks to have the one game this year against USC with the way the Pac-12 schedule falls. It's nice that it's in Eugene. Last season on February 26th, it was 70-69. Drew Peterson scored 20 points on 9 of 17, 8 rebounds, and Folly Dante for the Ducks, 12 points and 9 rebounds as well. Drew Peterson is really good. He is a difference maker. And then also last season, or I should say back a few seasons ago, on one of the least memorable days, unfortunately, for the Ducks. So these are the last 2 wins for the Trojans in Eugene in the last 11 meetings. That was when Drew Peterson was really good against the Ducks last year. And then in 2018, Benny Boatwright, remember that name? Scored 18 points against the Ducks. The series was split last year. The road team won each time. Remember that great weekend where Oregon beat 2 top 5 teams on the road in back-to-back games, UCLA and USC? That was fun. Yeah, but then that game on the 26th didn't go well for the Ducks. So, look, there's a lot on the line here, and there are players that have been in some of these matchups that are still on these rosters. Quincy Guerrier, though, I think that he could be an X factor in this game. In that loss last February, Guerrier scored 15 points and had 10 rebounds, one of the few double-doubles for Quincy Guerrier in his Oregon career. Now, this is interesting because the Ducks are 8-2 against USC in home conference games under Dana Altman, one of the better records that Coach Altman has. And, you know, it's funny, even with that win over Arizona State, the Ducks are now 7-3 against Arizona State. Cal is the only team that has been good against the Ducks in Matthew Knight Arena under Coach Altman. In fact, Coach Altman technically has a winning record against every team, or I should say he doesn't have a losing record against anybody. But ironically enough, Cal is 5-5 against Oregon in the Dana Altman era at Matthew Knight Arena. The only team that isn't honestly getting pulverized by the Ducks at Matthew Knight Arena. The home crowd matters. It is a home court advantage at Matthew Knight Arena. And the Ducks, particularly early in Coach Altman's tenure, not as much the last few years, but the home court advantage has been really, really good. Got to keep your eye out on Boogie Ellis. He is on a streak right now of 13 games scoring double figures. He's averaging 18 a game. He shoots 38% from 3. He makes 2.5 threes per game, and he has scored 20-plus points in 4 games. And he seems to rise up for the big moments. Boogie Ellis has given the Ducks some problems in the past. They're coming off a win over Washington, and it actually was closer than I thought it would be. Washington only lost by 6 to USC. And on the road this year, they're 3-3. They have not played a lot of true road games, the Trojans have. We'll see what happens. They're 3rd in the Pac-12 in scoring, 3rd in field goal percentage, 2nd in free throw percentage, so that trend of teams making free throws against the Ducks at a ridiculously high clip. Tonight's probably not the night that ends, so might want to keep them off the foul line. They don't rebound all that well, and I think this is an interesting number for USC. They're 9-2 when out-rebounding their opponent, and they're one of the worst in the conference in rebounding margin on the season. I guarantee you that when I talk to Coach Altman for the Toyota Coaches Corner coming up at shoot-around this afternoon, which you'll hear on the 7:30 pregame show, he is going to say rebounding is key. Because they are 9-2 when they out-rebound their opponent. There, I just did the interview for you. Why even listen to the pregame show? Please listen to the pregame show. That's good for all of us. You know, Oregon, though, I continue to kind of joke about this because I feel like if I talk about it, it might eventually go away. Teams are now shooting 78.5% against the Ducks at the free throw line. That is 361st in the NCAA. I mean, I don't get it. Like, what? So I asked Coach Altman last week, like, do you need the broadcaster to, like, talk louder during free throws? I mean, what's going on? It's bizarre. It's really, really bizarre. I also think that talking about rebounding, the Ducks are 223-31 under Dana Altman when they out-rebound their opponent, and the Ducks are 14-4 this season when they out-rebound their opponent. The numbers don't lie in that category. Ducks are also 13-4 when they score at least 70 points. They got to that 70-point threshold against Arizona State. Went well. You know what's also interesting? The Ducks have held 17 of 24 opponents to fewer than 70 points this year. We've always talked about how that 70-point number is key for Coach Altman. The Ducks are 219-27 under Dana Altman when holding their opponent to under 70 points. And this year, 13-4. 70 points, probably going to be a good number. Rebounds, probably going to be a good number. And don't let Drew Peterson score 50, 40, 30. maybe he could score. No, he probably can't score 20. I don't know. I mean, I do think, though, that this is a fun matchup. And, again, it's a massive game. I cannot stress it enough. So if you're driving around, if you're listening in Eugene in the 2 o'clock hour, if you're live with us in the 1 o'clock hour, or if you hear me on the pregame show tonight at 7:30, screech the tires, go to Matthew Knight Arena, please, because this is a huge game. If we want to have fun on Saturday with the big matchup with UCLA, it's also the Black History Month celebration game for the Ducks, so wear black if you're going to come to the game. That game will be a lot more fun with a good crowd and a win tonight at Matthew Knight Arena. I cannot stress enough how big of a deal this game is. All right. I am going to now get off of the host soapbox. And when we come back, Dana Altman will tell you what he thinks about this matchup with USC as he talked with the media for a few minutes this week, getting ready for Oregon and USC. Coach Altman and Rivaldo soars next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
Meet Ed, movie buff, animal lover, safe driver.
5 years of driving an ambulance teaches you a thing or two. If people knew what I know, lives could be saved. When I see a car trying to rush past a turning bus, I get concerned. You see, when big vehicles turn right, they have to swing wide to make the turn. And that's a lesson you don't want to learn the hard way. When trucks and buses turn, let's you and I wait.
It's our roads. It's our safety. Visit www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
I've been driving trucks for a long time, and safety is my #1 priority. I know that my truck has huge blind spots. That's why I remember to check my mirrors often for smaller vehicles. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're behind the wheel, try to avoid lingering in those blind spots. It can be dangerous. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, Duck Insider presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Oregon, USC coming up tonight. Huge game. If you missed it, the Pac-12 standings. USC is above the Ducks. You win this game, it's huge. Big resume-building opportunity. Hope to see all of you at Matthew Knight Arena. All right, Dana Altman this week talking with the media after practice yesterday. Some of his thoughts heading into the matchup with the Trojans tonight at 8 o'clock.
All right, Coach, last week, obviously, you lose to Arizona, but you come back and beat Arizona State. Just still some of those inconsistencies that you're seeing with the team. Do you feel like they're taking a little step forward, though, with those inconsistencies?
Well, I don't know if it was inconsistency. We played really hard against Arizona. We didn't play very smart. We gave up a lot of baskets that I thought we could have prevented that, we just did not do. So we played hard in both games and found a way to win one. I had some bad turnovers late, but held on. And so we're going to have to play a lot better this week. USC's a good team. UCLA's a really good team. So we're going to have our hands full. Both teams really well coached, and both teams defend really well. So it's going to be a tough week for us.
Obviously, it's been a little difficult with especially rotations this season because you've had so many players out of the lineup, then some of them coming back in and things like that. Do you feel like you have a good grasp of what groups sort of work at this point in the season?
Well, I think we're kind of set on a rotation here a little bit. We did go up and down, and we've had some struggles even of late with Dante missing the Colorado game. So, but no, we're settling in on some guys who really established themselves. You would hope so by, from February 8th, but because of, guys not playing many ball games, Key coming back, Jermaine coming back, Nate coming back, three guys that, are either starting or Key, I guess, would be our sixth man. So that makes a big difference. And, we went through some injuries there, but it seems like we're healthy now and should be able to finish this last month, I hope, strong. We're going to have to play really good because, as I mentioned, USC, UCLA really good. Then we go on the road for 3, so kind of a tough stretch coming up.
Do you feel like the chemistry is where it needs to be with, again, so many players being in and out of the lineup?
Well, it's not probably where it should be for February 8th, but it's getting better. The guys are having a better feel. Our execution was a little better. So it's not where it should be because you hope everybody be healthy for 24 games, but that hasn't been the case. And so it's been a work in progress, but we're definitely better now than we've been. And we're moving in the right direction. I just hope we have enough time to get where we need to go.
I think that's the real key, as Coach Altman talked with the media after practice yesterday heading into tonight's game, because there's still potential for the Ducks. They're still working on things, but they did hit the ground walking. So many injuries. It's not like they hit the ground running at the beginning of the season. In fact, in some ways, I think they hit the ground limping. Now they're hitting the ground running, but everybody else has maybe been running for 2 months. We'll see if they do have enough time to fix some of those problems. One of them, truthfully, is their press offense. They've turned it over too many times and have had some bad stretches late in games. I would expect USC is going to test the Ducks in that category. And USC also, a little bit of the scouting report for you, they will attack Oregon's press maybe differently than any other team the Ducks have played this year. So there are some stylistic intriguing matchups in this game. Now, one key and I think one X factor for the Ducks, it's been this way maybe all year, is Rivaldo Soares. He's one of those guys that I think is an easy fan favorite because, one, he's got a great personality, but two, he's the one that dives on the floor for loose balls. And, I know that sounds really cliche, and I realize that I just sounded ridiculously like coach speak, but am I wrong? When you see a guy like Rivaldo Soares diving on the floor, and a play like that leads to a game-turning bucket at the other end, how can you not help but root for that guy? Rivaldo Soares talked to the media heading into tonight's 8 o'clock matchup with USC.
What do you feel like the urgency is with the team obviously sort of coming down to the wire here and needing to go on a bit of a run here?
We know what we need to do, and we know what we can't afford to do. And just about locking in every night, and no matter who's in front of us, just playing hard, playing with some toughness every night, and just scrapping out a win.
First time seeing USC this year, what's sort of your early recruitment on them?
Buggy can get it going. Peterson can get it going. They're a tough-nosed group, They're going to play hard. They're going to try to punk us, but just, like I said, just being aggressive, being tough, and just locking in, not taking any opponent lightly.
This kind of really being the last sort of homestand for you guys, how important is this week specifically for you guys?
Like you said before, this is going to determine our season in a big way. And just trying to come out with wins, man.
What's the biggest key for you guys right now that you want to sort of add to, the team's sort of resume right now, as far as like on the floor?
I say just staying after it defensively, because the ball might not always go in. You have those type of nights, but defense can be played at all times, and it's just about scrapping, playing hard.
How have you guys been sort of adapting to all the changes in the lineup as far as, players going in and out of the starting lineup and who's healthy every other night? How have you guys sort of adapted to that?
I just feel like we don't have a lot of huge egos on this team, and everybody's locked in on trying to win. So it's just whenever your number's called, being ready, and if it's not called, bringing that same energy and not being a vampire, as Coach says, not an energy giver, not an energy taker.
Talked about it being a big weekend, resume-wise. Is that something you guys actively talk about in the locker room? What's the discussion like that, if anything?
I mean, Altman definitely lets us know, like, this is a big game, or big weekend coming up. So, can you ask that again?
Just it being a big resume weekend that you kind of mentioned, is that something that you guys really talk about, or is it just, hey, game by game, half by half?
Yeah, it's just game by game, half by half, media by media, just trying to win every 4 minutes, trying to win every game. Just there's a bigger emphasis now that we're going towards the end of the season, so every game's important now from now on.
I'm sure you guys don't pay too much attention to like bracketology and things like that, but how, again, sort of that urgency, then where is that level right now as far as desperation with knowing like, okay, maybe we need, X amount of wins or we need to go on a true run here?
I say desperation in a sense because we know what we have to do and we know we can't afford to lose any more games that we should win. And it's just the urgency, like you said, just staying on top of everything, intensity, just all those things.
Do you guys have a specific goal in mind going towards that, Pac-12 tournament?
Win. Simple as that.
I love that answer. I love that answer from Rivaldo Soares. Just win. Simple as that. Look, that's easier said than done, but that is the mentality right now. This team has things to improve on. This is a big game against USC coming up. One cool thing beyond the court for a moment, the Oregon Athletic Department had 44 student athletes from 5 programs named to the Pac-12 Conference's Fall Academic Honor Roll that was released Thursday. 8 from men's cross country, 7 from women's cross country, 14 from football, 9 from soccer, and 6 from volleyball, all recognized on the Pac-12 Fall Academic Honor Roll. Congratulations to all those Ducks. You can find more on GoDucks.com. When we come back, it's softball season tonight. I wore the softball socks today. Yeah, I can't put my hand. No, I'm not doing what Matt Ulmer did courtside. But yeah, I wore the softball socks today to the basketball game because it's softball opening day. We're going to hear from Melyssa Lombardi, some of her thoughts. She met with the media previewing the season. That's next. Keep it here on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear winter, Toyota's got 20 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action, and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/22.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
Dear winter, Toyota's got 20 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action, and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/22.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
The United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is a national nonprofit and the largest non-governmental provider of services to law enforcement. The USDSA assists city, county, state, and federal agencies with free safety equipment donations and officer survival training, along with cash donations to families of law enforcement officers who perish in the line of duty, college scholarships for the children of law enforcement, a citizen awareness program, and more. For more information on the USDSA and how you can help, visit usdeputy.org.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen.
For late nights writing English papers.
For your teen's music taste.
For dinners, where they talk more on their phone than with you.
For the first time, they call you mom.
you're never completely ready to adopt a teen, and you can't imagine the reward.
To learn more about adopting a teen, visit adoptuskids.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, Duck Insider presented by On Point Community Credit Union. So we got basketball coming up tonight at Matthew Knight Arena. However, Oregon softball in Puerto Vallarta. The Ducks at 6:30. It'll be televised on Flow Softball for those of you who want to tune in. They're taking on Maryland, the first of 5 in Mexico here tonight. And they are back. Love to see that. So, yeah, the Ducks at 6:30 tonight starts the 5th season for Melyssa Lombardi, version 5, as she says. Melyssa Lombardi also talked with the media heading into the season. Now, you've heard her on the show the last couple days because she sat down with us in the Country Financial Studio. This from her preseason press conference at the Jane, talking with the media about the season upcoming and some of the off-season keys, personnel. Covered a lot of ground. Melyssa Lombardi previewing the season. It's brought to you by the Willamette Valley Cancer Institute and Research Center. Fight like a duck with exceptional cancer care close to home. Our Toyota Women's Sports Schedule Spotlight, softball opening tonight.
Listening to some of the players here, it sounds like so many of them are talking about mindset and mentality and that being kind of a big part of their offseason. As a coach, how did you want to get that across to them? Who do you want them to turn to with their specific either a sports psychologist or kind of sports psychology books or certain things that you kind of thought were useful tools for them and kind of going about making that transition?
I think mindset is something we've spoke about a lot. Talk a lot about the post-season mindset. And you think about a long season, you get to postseason, and there's a shift that can happen at times because this is it. It's either you figure it out or you go home. So I think our biggest thing we've spoke on is how can we create that postseason mindset right from the beginning in the month of January to take us into our season versus going through our season and then getting to that postseason mindset.
Was that harder in the past couple of years, either because of youth or then COVID hits and everything's not normal in the short 20, but then even into 21, just there was always something that was kind of a miss and a wrench in there by way of a challenge in past years that just made things a little bit more difficult to do it compared to this group, which is, I mean, you've only got one freshman.
I think the biggest thing is just experience. We've been to postseason now since I've been here 2 years, and with those 2 years you get experience, and you get to experience what postseason feels like. And so through their experiences, and now with them being older, I think it allows them to have a better understanding of what that is and what it looks like and what we have to do. So I just think it comes from experience more than anything.
To that point, just a question, because you guys have always almost excelled at 2-out hitting. I mean, and that's that kind of pressure you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Is that just kind of being able to channel that now? This is a more experienced group and they're able to channel that? Is that kind of what you're saying?
I think so. I think the biggest thing you can do is have opportunities to have the experience. Whether it goes for you or goes against you, it's an experience that's going to aid and benefit you with that next game or that next season or whatever it may be. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that you'll see from this group is that, from our first year, we have our final 3 that are left of version 1, and they have a ton of experience in them, and I think it allows that to create a little more urgency of what it is that they want and to start with that right from the start versus getting into the season and building up to it. They want to build up to it faster.
What has Elise brought?
She's been great. I think, the toughest thing for a transfer that transfers in January is that they have to get in, settle in quickly, figure things out quickly, and go. And I think she has handled that well. I think these guys have been supportive of her. I think she's got some really good energy. She knows how to compete. She had a full load last year as a freshman. So even though she's a sophomore, I think she's somebody that has, pitched a lot of innings and will be able to make that transition quickly.
What do you think about the NCAA making that rule change to where, rather than baseball having the option, like you guys have had for forever, that you guys got to fall in line the other way, and mid-year transfers are going to go away, and that's a change, a significant change.
I think it just depends on what end you're on. If you're needing a transfer, it's tough. If you're not, and and you lose somebody mid-season, it's tough. So I think anytime there are rule changes, we always adapt.
Coach, who's someone who might not have been a starter last year that you see competing and could be a competitor for some of the spots this year?
Yeah, I've really liked what Kedry has done, what Kai has done. I know they've been a little bit in and out of the lineup. I think you see those two. I think with Taya, we had her on both sides of the field last year. I think you'll see her a little bit more. I don't know. Some of these young ones are just coming into their own this year. You could see that they are very prepared mentally, prepared physically to tackle on the season. Sometimes when you're young, maybe you're a little bit in and out of the lineup, and then that next year you don't want to be in and out of the lineup. And so something happens over the summertime to force you to be in the lineup, and I feel that from a couple of these guys for sure.
You brought in a few transfers this year. How do you feel like those transfers are going to help your team, and why did you want to bring in those players specifically?
Yeah, I think of Kyla Morris. She is a grad transfer. She's a graduate from Duke. She's here for her master's in advertising and branding. And she is an elder, and she has been there, and she has done that. And she played in a super regional last year, and she gets it. Like, she's at the end of her career. So to bring somebody like that to be a part of our team, I think has been wonderful. She fits right in with us, and I think she's going to have a really, really good year. I look at Morgan Scott. We got an opportunity to play against her, and she should have beat us. We struggled with her. We were just able to figure it out, just enough to figure it out at the end. But she's another one. She's pitched a ton in past seasons and has had the ball in every tough situation, and she's got it. She's got it. Alyssa Daniel is another one. She's from Oregon, and there's something about being an athlete from Oregon that gets to come here and play at the Jane in front of our fans that excites that athlete, but also excites our fan group. One swing and she can change the game. She's got power. She's a lefty. I think we've been looking to add lefties in our lineup since I've been here. She plays first, and just like I said, again, experienced. She's older. So I think of some of these guys that have come in, and that's what I think about, is just that they have some good experience. I think their personality really fits with our team, and I think that they will gel really well with our returners.
Last year you played against both Morgan and Melyssa. How does that sort of impact the transfer process? Does it make you more likely to go and seek after those players to bring them in?
With the transfer process, I just think it just depends what it is you're needing. If there's a need, then there's an opportunity to go in the transfer portal. If there's not a need and you have young incoming, athletes out of high school, I just think it just, again, is something that as coaches that we have just learned to adapt to see how fit to use it.
How has Taya progressed and taken big strides compared to a year ago to put herself in position to potentially be the starter for her team?
Yeah, she's progressed a ton. Mentally, physically, I think there's certain points for us as coaches where you just see like an aha moment for each one of our athletes, and you could see that happen with Taya. I think she's matured so much. She understands the game. She knows how to play defense. She's put a ton of time into her offense. She's got really good power, and I think each athlete has their journey, and no journey is the same. So I think she's in a good part of her journey where she's ready to take on a heavier load and to really have opportunity to contribute to us. And she's been a great team player as well. I think there's something about, I think every one of our athletes, when they come here to play, they're all starters wherever they have all come from. And they come here, some will continue to start, and then some might be in and out of the lineup a little bit. Sometimes I think it's kind of nice to be a little in and out of the lineup because it really gets you to understand what it is that you want, what you need to do, and I think it gets you also to appreciate both sides of it. So I think Taya's in a really good spot, and I'm excited to see her compete this year.
Where's Stevie at physically compared to the fall, which is a bit more limited?
She's good. She's ready to go. she's in a good spot.
We asked a lot of the players the same question, but if you could characterize or describe what the identity of this team is, how would you describe it?
This team, I think, has a little bit of unfinished business. Like I said, each year that we've been in postseason, we've learned what it takes. And so to see this team have a postseason mentality from the beginning of the new year on, I think is going to go a long way for us. I think there's urgency. There's just a different urgency with them this year than years before. I think you see some of our athletes that they're at the end of their career and aren't saying, oh, I have to do really good. They're just very calm, cool, collective, understanding what they need to do, and excited to compete. They don't fear what if they don't get. I think they are all very confident in who they are as individuals and who they are as a team. I think you will definitely see a bond with this group like no other. I think you'll see them really, really play hard for each other and understand that there may be times where a certain matchup suits this lineup versus another matchup, and they get the strategical part of that.
Melyssa Lombardi, Oregon softball head coach, meeting with the media. 6:30 tonight in Mexico, televised on Flow Softball, the Ducks taking on Maryland. When we come back, a little bit more from Coach Lombardi. Also, bad news for men's golf today. Quick update for you. Second straight day of high winds out in Hawaii forced the cancellation of the 2023 Ameriari Intercollegiate Men's Golf Tournament. Tournament won't be made up. They got suspended after 5 holes yesterday, and then today they were going to try to play 2 rounds, and the weather just not cooperating. So the Ducks will return home to action March 12th through 14th at Bandon Dunes. The Bandon Dunes Championship going on for men's golf. That stinks, though. Casey Martin's squad unable to get that tournament in, and hope that they travel home safe. When we come back, a little bit more of Oregon softball preview as the Ducks start their season tonight. Keep it here on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
This is Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. He sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself.
For many military veteran caregivers, their caregiving journey starts earlier in life and lasts longer. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack in the Country Financial Studio. Melyssa Lombardi, Oregon softball head coach, getting ready to hear part 2 from her. And also Hannah Delgado and Paige Sinicki met with the media previewing the season. We won't get to all of them on the show, but the folks at Quack Video took care of you, and they're on the Go Ducks YouTube channel if you're ready for a little more in-depth softball preview heading into the 6:30 start of the season tonight. Part 2, Melyssa Lombardi previewing the season, chatting with the media this week.
With your forte kind of being with the pitchers, a question that I've been asked to ask. Last year, the defense was potentially the strongest part of the team, but you can't defend home runs. And a lot of the pitching, kind of in critical moments, didn't go to the defense. They left the yard. Is that something in the pitch calling, or is that something with individual pitchers and they just have to have a mindset, or is that just kind of happenstance that sometimes they get away, or is it just a combination of all of that?
It's definitely not in the pitch calling. I know that for sure. Like, I can't even imagine. No. You know, I think for as long as I've been coaching, sometimes, whether you're an individual or you are as a team, sometimes you have to go through some adversity. You have to go through a little pain. You have to go through a little bit of not getting what you want for something that is coming. I do. I believe that. And I think there were some tough things that we had to go through last year that are going to really make a difference for us and have already made a difference for us this year. I think you're going to really like this pitching staff. I think they're going to complement each other extremely well. And I think we're going to look a little different on the pitching, on the mound, for sure. I think our defense is going to be really strong again. I think our offense, you're going to see a lot more power than what we've shown in the past. We're going to continue to run, continue to, if we have to play small ball, you know, put runners in motion, things that we like to do. But I think you'll see, I think there's some additional things that you're going to like what you see.
And one thing that you've also kind of a forte of yours is lineup manipulation. I won't call it cheating. Are you going into the season kind of with a mental lineup in mind, or are you going to continue to kind of plug and play and see what works best? I mean, that's going to happen, obviously. But do you have kind of in your mind kind of what you're looking at?
Well, I think what's nice is that, I mean, 7 of our 9 last year are back. So to see, I think there's certain athletes that feel like you could already probably plug in the way you'd like to plug in. I think anytime you can go and stay consistent, you know, the athletes appreciate that. But I think, too, this group is old enough and mature enough to understand that if we have a matchup that favors us in a certain way to adjust our lineup, I mean, we've been doing it for a while now, that I think they understand that.
Starting off the season tough, what are some benchmarks that you want to hit as sort of building blocks coming out of this opening weekend?
I'm excited to see how we come out of the gate. That's what I want to see. You know, anytime you go to the Puerto Vallarta tournament, you know what type of schedule that you're going to get if you play in that tournament. So we knew exactly what we're getting ourselves into. I think last year we were the #1 strength of schedule the entire year, and then finished 2 or 3. 2. We finished 2. I expect us to have the same strength of schedule as we did last year. What I really, really like about our team this year is that we have more depth. This is the deepest team that we've had since I've been here, which I think will allow for us to, you know, handle the schedule that we are going to be getting.
Someone we haven't really featured on today has been Tara. What have you seen from her growth over the offseason as she continues to move into her 5th year?
I would say Tara, just like Bunk, is ready to go. Like, this is her last and final year. I think the biggest thing is just keeping her healthy. Like, you saw the Tara that she went on last year and then got injured and was out for a chunk, and then we got her again, and then she just continued where she left off. I think if we can keep her healthy throughout the entire year, it'll be huge for us.
What challenges, forgetting the wins and losses, but what challenges have you given to the team that, if they meet those challenges, you would call it a successful tournament?
I think to come out and to compete and know that we're going to face some tough pitching and we're going to face some tough hitting, and if we need to make adjustments, are we able to make key in-game adjustments throughout the weekend that allows us to put us on top and get what we want? To me, that's, I think, the hardest thing to do, is to make those key in-game adjustments. If we're struggling in a spot, that we see it, recognize it, can make the adjustment and get what we want. And I just, with this group and how old they are and experienced, I'm excited to see them do that. I know they can do that.
Did you want the Oklahoma State matchup specifically for that this weekend? There's a lot of really good teams there. I mean, you've got several of them, but for that one specifically, because of, obviously, you getting to know each other very well, but strategy and facing a top 5 opponent and getting that in an opening weekend, to get that barometer immediately, to not wait until or later to get it right out the gate.
No, they're a very good team. They've been at the World Series. I think Kenny has done a wonderful job with them. For us and for this group, what is important to us is we know overall what we're going to be dealing with this weekend and the top teams. That is definitely going to be a tough game. But if you were to ask myself or anybody else, we'd tell you all we care about is Maryland right now. But we do know it's coming with, they're a World Series team for sure. But I just think for us, the best way for us to go about is to get caught up in Maryland, and then from there, see what's next. And then.
Yeah, the tournaments are always interesting. And Coach Lombardi continued on to say that, they do get ready for everybody in these tournaments, but the team is focusing just on Maryland. You can't do a scouting report on somebody that you're going to play in 2 days when you have 3 other opponents before that, But the coaching staffs put together those scouting reports ahead of time. That's the way these tournaments work, right? Same in basketball. Like, you go to the Pac-12 tournament, the assistant coaches and the staff are all putting together scouting reports for the various different opponents, and then the team doesn't go through that scouting report till it's time to play them. Softball approaches it very similar. Baseball approaches it that way. It's pretty common, actually, across the sports. But I do think it's worth noting that the competition level is really high. It's a bunch of teams with winning records from last year with a lot of returning players that are playing in this tournament in Puerto Vallarta. The Ducks against Maryland tonight. When we come back, we're going to hear a little bit from Hannah Delgado, one of the team leaders, and then we've got basketball. Oregon, USC tonight at Matthew Knight Arena. We'll see you at 8 o'clock, won't we? Back after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
More Duck Insider coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Chris Jakimick, I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. Being a veteran, it's interwoven into your DNA, is really the absence of the connection and the purpose that can really drive a lot of veterans to some negative thoughts. For those who are in a suicidal crisis, the window of time to save somebody's life is very short. Our duty is to protect ourselves and protect our families, and one way you can do that is store your weapons safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, Duck Insider presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Our Toyota Women's Sports Schedule Spotlight tonight. Oregon softball season begins. Toyota, let's go places. Hannah Delgado, one of the team leaders for this squad. She met with the media. A couple questions for her as the Ducks get ready to take on Maryland tonight.
So, Hannah, just general thoughts on the offseason, how things are progressing towards the year?
I think they went really well. We learned a lot about each other, and I think we gelled as a team, and we're in a really good position, better than our team was last year, so I think we're really looking forward to getting started this week.
What were you working on in the offseason specifically?
I think our approach to everything and also our mentality. We've done a lot of meetings with our coaches just about how we want to approach this year and how we're going into this year. So I think the mental side of it was the biggest part for us.
When you're looking at this new makeup of the team, each version under Coach Lombardi has kind of had its own identity as you head into the season this year. What do you feel like that identity would be going into the season with this new grouping?
I think our identity would be I'd probably say just getting after it and being in the moment, not thinking too far ahead of ourselves, just playing it game by game, pitch by pitch, and just really focusing on us and nothing else around us. I think that's like the biggest thing for us this season.
Do you have any goals for this season, either personal or team?
Team, I just think for us to play freely. I think in the past we've kind of struggled with that a little bit. We've always been super uptight and just not allowing ourselves to play to the best of our ability. So I think that's a really big one for us this year, and just continuing to build a program. And I think making it to a super regional is a big goal for us, and just continuing on with that.
I thought that was a really great answer from Hannah Delgado. You know, a lot of times you'll hear people say, well, you know, team goals, we just want to be successful. No, that was very direct and to the point. Like, we want to get to a super regional, but also how did they go about getting there? I thought that was great from Hannah Delgado. You can see why the team has been focused so much on some of the mental aspect of the game. We heard Coach Lombardi talk a lot about that. Softball season begins tonight. We'll have a recap of the first matchup of the year tomorrow. Then the Ducks play 5 games in 3 days down in Mexico to start their season. Basketball tonight. Oh, this is huge. Oregon and USC. Hey, Game Day Poster Series continues. This is great tonight. You're going to see more about the Game Day Poster Series. We'll have one in the studio for the weekend. But the Duck, of course, on a Harley, and then the Trojan mascot always rides in on a horse. I'll be honest, maybe call me new school, but I'll take the motorcycle over the horse any day. That's just my take. I don't know that it's a very extreme take. Certainly it's an Oregon take. I also think that if the Duck and the Trojan were to go at it, I know the Trojan's got a plastic sword that he likes to stab into turf every now and then, but I don't know, man. My money's on the Duck. Oregon and USC tonight. The first time and the only time that these two teams will play here this evening. Matthew Knight Arena, hope to see all of you there. I've got a 7:30 pregame show. Heading to shoot-around right now. If you're live with us, heading toward the 2 o'clock hour. Ducks getting ready to host the Trojans. We got Duck Insider tomorrow, but a big one at Matthew Knight Arena tonight. See you there.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
It's time for today's STEM tip. Okay,